Well, hello, East Hill Church. My name is Ryan. I'm one of the pastors here, and I am delighted to bring to you an amazing couple, Bill and Kathy Kieselhorst. They've been a part of East Hill Church for a very long time, and they are doing an incredible work right now as emissaries for Foursquare Missions. And so let's go ahead and throw it on over to Bill and Kathy by starting with a question, and that is, can you tell us a little bit about what it means to be an emissary?
Well, the emissary category of missionary is relatively new, and it grew out of an attempt to re-engage or engage the elders of our movement, especially retired missionaries. It used to be when you retired, you just left.
It just
It was
disappeared.
over. But so there's an attempt to bring mature leaders into engagement with our fields worldwide and use mature people who are wise enough not to cause troubles on the field. Mm-hmm. And that's a pretty delicate thing to go into another country and stomp around. So it's sort of a trusted category of trusted people. Not sure why we're on there, but
but there are different types of emissaries. I mean, there's a couple down in Eugene whose focus is specifically on Asia, but we've been given the liberty to interact with anybody who calls us or wants to talk to us, wants to do a Zoom. And that includes both active and retired or, missionaries that are off the field or transitioning off the field. And all of that is confidential. So we can't advertise any of that in our newsletters and say, oh, we've talked to, and name names and things like that. So it's kind of a quiet emissary role where we're there as just friends, open to talk, have experience, and can relate to what they want to share. And so it's a pretty open category. So we have to, we have to be careful what we say in our newsletters. So our newsletters are focused on continuing educating people who love missions on what it's like to be on the field, what it's like to be a missionary. So our newsletters are kind of based around some of the problems, some of the situations that missionaries find themselves in, and make it an open, anybody can relate to it. It isn't specific to the people we're talking to or working with.
We've been asked to do this, and it's really to simply be available for missionaries to call, to talk. We're not counselors, we're not clinical counselors, and we really speak out of our lives. I mean, we've spent 30 years engaged with Foursquare Missions, and so we've been run over by a lot, and we speak out of a lifetime, speak out of wisdom, and it's an opportunity for missionaries to reflect, and it's confidential, so they don't get tangled up with their boss when they're fretting about something, and so it's a safe place.
Mm-hmm.
Kathy, can you kind of unpack with us just when this call to be an emissary started and where it started from?
We've served at East Hill as missionary leadership team members for a long time, and so we've had input into all of East Hill's missionaries that have gone out in the last 10 years. And so it started there and just being available to people who were preparing. And now we're in contact with our missionaries from East Hill, just as friends, as people they can talk to. We contact them either on Facebook or email or something. And so we've been in a local role for a long time. And now with the COVID, of course, that is restricted. We can't travel to see them, and we don't intend to. We plan on doing Zoom and emails and personal touches in the acceptable ways at this time. So, but we have been involved with training our missionaries out of East Hill as well as following them up on the field.
You guys have mentioned a bit about your mission journey. Now, for some of us, we know the Kieselhorst, and you've been around East Hill for a very long time. But for a lot of our congregation, they're pretty new to East Hill and don't know some of the background. Bill, can you give us just a quick snapshot into what your missionary journey has looked like so far?
Well, we were invited into a mature ministry in Nigeria and in West Africa. And so we lived there for 7 years. Lived in Africa. And, but we were asked to work with a mature church, which really means leadership development. We're not running anything. We're not in charge. The mission isn't in charge. It's a fully indigenous work. And so you're not directing anything. You're not managing anything. You're not telling people what to do. You're really listening to people's lives and responding to what the Lord is doing in their lives. And so it was really a wonderful ministry to be able to input into, well, we were shepherding 300 leaders, shepherding shepherds.
Mm-hmm. You know, and it started out, both of us were in the Peace Corps in our early 20s, and that's history enough. But when we came back and got saved in our mid 30s, we knew that we still had that cross-cultural heart to live and explore and love other cultures. And so we went to FMI at that time and asked them to process as missionaries. And since we were just lay people in our church on the coast, they said, we'd really like you to pastor for 5 years before we send you out as FMI missionaries. So that was our track. We moved to Ellensburg from Newport, Oregon. We went to Ellensburg, Washington, pastored for 5 years, and then reapplied because the call to serve people overseas was still on our hearts. And by that time we had 4 children, and it was a more complicated process, but they acknowledged the fact that we had the experience that they'd asked us for, and we had matured in our faith. So that's when we got appointed to Nigeria. So we've worked in all aspects of missions, and seen a lot of people go on missions. So.
Wow. Thank you for how you've served East Hill and served the missional community. For our Heart for the Mission offering, our vision is to address people's practical needs locally and globally so they can experience the love of God and know that they are seen. In light of this vision, can one of you spell out a bit of how that connects with what you both are doing with emissary work?
We have felt a call to work especially with leadership wherever we are, and that wherever we are, we work with leaders. And we work with leaders because leaders are fruitful people. And so we help fruitful people be fruitful people. We know that there are tremendous pressures on missionaries overseas. It's some of the highest stress work you can do. A lot of people get PTSD from it. And so they really do need encouragement. They do need people to check in with. They need people to be a barometer for them, because there's a lot of fallout in this ministry. So really we are helping keep leaders healthy is our contribution.
And at East Hill, we actually helped and worked with Joy Fuentes and helped her train the youth group that went down to, was it Mexico or Guatemala? And so anybody in our congregation at East Hill who's been interested in missions, we've been open to talk to them about what the process is and whether they want to go with FMI or another mission group, but what life is like on the mission field and the realities that they need to think about as they try to respond to the call that they feel God has put on their hearts. So we've always been local church people, open to talking to people who get this nudge that, well, I really feel that I would like to work overseas. And that would be our opening to say, well, we'd love to sit down and have a cup of coffee we can and talk with you and let you know further what that would look like. So we're local church people as well as international people too.
You know, there's only one mission of the church, and that's to disciple the nations. That's our mission. So whether you do that in Gresham or Rockwood or Portland, or whether you do that in Africa or Asia, really has to do with where God calls you and God takes you according to your network of friends, your skills, your spiritual gifts, and so on. So we're all just discipling. And some people are giving away clothing, and some people are feeding the hungry, and some people are developing leaders. Some people are pastoring churches. And so it's all one big enterprise.
It's a church.
Okay, a portion of the offering we're taking is going to go towards you as emissaries. What will you use that money for?
Well, as far as this emissary role that we're serving now, it's like I said, we're at the point in our life where we don't want to do international traveling, but we want to be open to people who are preparing or who are on the field or coming off the field. Because a lot of times, like we have the Ballon family coming off the field. In fact, I think they're home now. And how can we support them in that transition? Because it's just as traumatic in many ways as it is going out to a foreign country and entering that field. So our support is just so that we're available on educating, interacting, supporting, encouraging. Like we have one family in Cote d'Ivoire in West Africa that we're in touch with, and we just talk. We just share our lives and ask how they're doing, and we're in touch with the Malonans. And so we're just open. We're not traveling, so we're not funding a huge budget. We're funding our resources so that we can reach out and be available to those missionaries that the Lord puts us in touch with. We actually have a really wide network of people who have also come home and still have a missionary heart. And so we talk with them about what that transition's like and how we can aid that and, you know, help them keep that vision alive for serving overseas, because it's sometimes a very specific call on a person's life. And while we're all discipling and looking for those openings, the work overseas takes a special person who can adapt and adjust. So that's what we're here for.
But we're also, we're close friends with Brad and Lynn Ketch, who run the Rockwood Community Development Corporation. As a matter of fact, I'm on his board. And we worked for them from the beginning of that ministry because of the missional nature of it. It's highly cross-cultural. I mean, there's something like 85 language groups in that area. And that raises some really difficult issues and some questions on how to communicate and cultural sensitivity and so on. And so we do have our fingers in a lot of pies. So
yeah. But since we're not traveling ourselves, except as they come to Portland and we're able to meet them here, our work is primarily in newsletters and Zoom calls and, you know, Facebook contacts and things like that. So our needs are minimal, but they're essential to the people who we minister to.
Let's say someone's inspired to join alongside of you beyond just a one-time gift in the Heart for the Mission offering. What does partnering with you long-term look like, and how can people partner with you?
Well, we're retired, and so we live on fixed income, which is of course limited, and but we do raise support partly through our mission, and this is done by friends and colleagues and various churches making periodic or monthly donations to our ministry. And we're looking at about 3 years on this, and then it's renewable after that.
But how would they contact us?
And we can be contacted either through East Hill Church, but we have a giving page at foursquaremissions.org, foursquaremissions.org, on the Giving tab. So if you go on the Giving tab and click on that, you ask where to find Bill and Kathy, and we'll have a page that pops up. And you can make a periodic gift, a regular gift, whatever you want to do.
That's the easiest way.
What about a newsletter? Do you guys do a newsletter, and how does someone sign up for it?
We send out a monthly newsletter, and typically it's an email. It's short, so it can be read in a matter of a few minutes. We also send out a printed one periodically. And if you want to get on our mailing list, you can send us an email, bkieselhorst@foursquare.org, or you could contact the church. They know where we are. bkieselhorst@foursquare.org. All you got to do is spell it right. So.
Awesome. Well, do you guys have any parting words or anything you want to leave us with?
Well, I think it's important to remember that missions isn't an option. It isn't a little project that we do and go dig an outhouse or build an outhouse or something and then come home and we've done our thing. The mission of the church is ongoing, and Jesus commissioned it. And so we are obeying Christ, and it's important for us to pay attention to what that is and take some part in that. And sometimes it's giving, sometimes it's going. Maybe you're called. Sometimes it is laboring alongside somebody. And all of us pray. I mean, you go into a foreign country on faith. It's frightening to go live in another country. It can be absolutely lonely living in another country. And we need prayer. Missionaries need prayer. And they love what they're doing, but they get tired. They get worn out. So anyway, that's how we support.
Wow. Yeah, what a great word to end with. Thank you, Bill and Kathy. Appreciate your time and appreciate both of you. God bless.
Well, East Hill has a history of missions.
Yeah.
And you think where Jason is now, being, sent out by East Hill in his roles as a missionary, and you think of Coco and Keith and their missional, and they've prompted all of this. So we have had a long history of being a church that is active missionally, and that's to our joy. So
thanks for contacting us, Ryan. We appreciate it.
We appreciate both of you guys. Thank you so much.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, you too.